Have been affected with everything going on in Maui, and we also want to say we are standing with our with the people in Spain with dealing with the entire Spanish Federation with their president not resigning and everything going on with them, and we side with the players and the federation. And now segueing all that, it looks like Caleb has finally joined us. We are now going to talk about the transfer window that just closed in the top 5 leagues, as well as hitting on the Champions League draw, and we'll maybe probably touch on Liverpool's Europa League campaign. But kind of segueing through that, I'm going to start with Casey. Casey, how did you feel about your team, Barcelona, in this transfer window?
I would give us probably an A minus, B plus ish range. I think we hit a lot of the signings that we wanted to hit, whether it be the João Cancelo loan, which a lot of people didn't think was possible, the João Felix loan, which a lot of people didn't think was possible because everyone calls it broke. But we send out a lot of our players who weren't going to play anyways, like Christian Longley, Eric Garcia as well. Christian to what was it, Aston Villa, and then
Garcia went to
to Girona as well. And then lastly, kind of another one I'm torn on is Ansu Fati over to Brighton. He was our star boy. He was the original before Pedri. He was before Balde, before Gavi. He was the next coming of La Masia, and it just hasn't worked out for him that well. And although he can score if he gets in front of the goal, he just has dealt with so many injuries. It's derailed his career so far. But the thing is, he's only 20. He's still really young. He's going to have time to develop in Brighton's system and everything. And they play a similar style to Barcelona currently. And he's going to get a lot of game time because he's going to be the highest paid player in their whole squad. So I'm looking forward to it. I think he's going to do well in Brighton and the Premier League, and then his confidence is going to go up, his value is going to go up. But when it comes to Barcelona, I'd say about an A minus. We were looking at some signings earlier in the transfer window, such as Bernardo Silva, which I know a lot of Barca fans wanted. Didn't end up coming to Barca. He ended up signing a new deal with City, and that was probably our main target of the summer. And it just didn't work out, along with Dembele leaving. So that was another big thing that happened. Another bad mark on Barca and Xavi in general. But I would give us probably A minus, just because we were able to pull off the deals in the end of the window to cover everything, and we didn't have to spend that much money to do it.
Would you say you gave yourselves an A minus? Do you think that you're gonna have enough squad depth to go through this gruesome league, plus the Champions League, plus the Copa del Rey, plus the Copa de España that you have to play in with a smaller squad? Like you said, you lost Ansu Fati on loan with no buy option. You loaned out Eric Garcia for a year. You loaned out Clemente Langley. You let Kessie walk away for free. You let Abdi leave on a loan with a permanent buy next year for 7.5. You brought in Ilkay Gundogan, who is 30, has some injury history. You bring in João Cancelo, who hasn't been in form for the last 2 years, and you bring in João Felix, who really isn't wanted at Atletico, hasn't performed for how much he was worth. Goes to Chelsea, doesn't perform as well there either. Where's the question is, where's João going to play? Just because he can't play on the right side. You have Lewandowski through the middle. Lewandowski's talked about it being he's too isolated up front, but you don't bring in really anyone to replace Dembele. Rafinha suspended for a couple games. You're kind of in a weird situation. You haven't looked good through 3 games. You conceded 3 goals last game against Villarreal in the comeback win, but are you somewhat scared of your team right now?
I wouldn't say I'm scared by any means. We are the defending La Liga champions. We're bringing most of our squad back, and most of the minutes that was played in key minutes, they're all coming back. A lot of our core is coming back. Ansu Fati, although he is a pivotal piece for our Barca future, he didn't play as much as I thought he should have last season. Eric Garcia didn't play much last season. Longley was out at Tottenham last season. I don't really think, other than Dembele, we're not losing that much squad depth. Kessie didn't play that much, and we sold him on 15 million to Saudi Arabia. So we bring in Gundogan to replace him. We still have some quality talent. I think João Felix will still play on the right side. He'll kind of tuck in more into centrally to play alongside Lewandowski. But I'm sure we'll have a Ferran Torres or someone else, or a Gavi even playing on the left wing alongside Lewandowski as well. We've seen how that works. We'll have Balde running up that left channel like he does as one of the fastest left backs in the world. So I'm not really worried about our start so far. I know the Villarreal game was really close, and we came back and we won. But, I think we'll get it together. Once João Cancelo comes in, we'll have Araujo and Koundé at the center backs, Balde at the left back, Cancelo at the right. Our defense is going to be great regardless of what happens. And, we're going to have more creation with Cancelo than we had with Koundé on the right. So I'm really not worried about our defense and, our offense. As long as Felix connects with Lewandowski and our midfield, I think he's the key piece here. We haven't even talked about Rafinha yet, and he might be playing a lot of minutes as well throughout this first few weeks, first few months, because he's already been integrated in the squad, and he kind of had a really great run of form the last half of the season, bagging in 10 goals and 10 assists last season. So I expect to see a lot of Rafinha in the beginning, and João Felix get integrated with the squad. And I think we'll end up winning the league. I said this before the season started. I know Madrid has had their hot start and everything, but really, as with Vinny out and everything, I think that's going to slow down real soon.
Yeah, we'll see. Bellingham's been on fire. 3 games, 4 goals,
He has,
1
but
assist.
that's not sustainable. We both know that.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I am, as a Madrid fan, I'm very skeptical on how and where these goals are going to be coming from. Our defense has looked somewhat shaky through 3 games, but we'll find our groove halfway through. And if Carlo's experienced enough to know if he needs help, he'll get it in January. And really, our season really picks up in January. That's when we're going deep in runs into the Champions League. We're competing for La Liga. We'll be competing for all these other tournaments, Copa del Rey, Copa de España. So we'll be fine. I think we have enough squad depth to do it. We didn't really lose anyone. We lost. The only one we really lost was Benzema, but we still have the depth behind. Our midfield's one of the best in the world still. We got a good rotation, so plus we'll be able to rotate between Kroos and Modric's old legs, so we can rest them for the big games coming up. Oh, now going to Caleb about your team with Liverpool. They have had an interesting summer, to say the least. Little highlights. Brought in McAllister and Sabalasai from Brighton and RB Leipzig, respectively. Started the window off hot. We liked what we saw from them, and then they tried to go get Romeo Lavia and Moses Caicedo, both missing out on them, and then bringing in Endo from Stuttgart. And then at the last day of the deadline, on deadline day today, they go out and get Gravenberch from Bayern Munich for about 30 million. People were a little skeptical if that deal was going to happen with the whole João Paulinho deal falling through at the last minute, because I know their whole thing was they only wanted to bring in, get rid of Gravenberch if they could replace Paulinho, but it didn't look like that was the case. They didn't have time, but Gravenberch still joined. But the key losses with Liverpool, they let so many people go, such as Henderson, James Milner, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, a lot of depth. And then on the last day, letting Nat Phillips leave on loan to Celtic. So all in all, Caleb, what would you rate your season or your transfer season?
Probably give it like a B, maybe B minus. We could have done more and been a little more aggressive. The whole Caicedo thing, I believe at this point now, was not really serious. The fact that we have all this money just sitting around now and we only spend 30 million of it goes to show that it looks like FSG knew that this was not really going to go through and this was not going to happen, and they just kind of play this off for fools. The whole Lavia thing stalling for a month over what 4 million. It's kind of sad, and the guy could have been playing right now, but he chose money over us as well. So, um, in terms of Sabazlai and McAllister, I think those are pretty eschewant signings. Like no doubt about, will be 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 signings in the long run. Endo, I am behind. I think he is a player that kind of replaces that Milner or Henderson role, can play a number of positions, and honestly, he brings a little bit of that experience. And if you ask a Stuttgart fan, they are very sad that he left. So I feel like what I've seen from him so far, I mean, he's only played 2 games, and both games they were down to 10 men. So it's not like he's had a full on, like, actual debut at this point. It's hard to really say, like, yeah, this guy is really good, or this guy might be this and that. Um, and then Gravenberch, I like the signing. Can he play that 6? That's something that we're gonna have to see. I think we just might as well try it now. I mean, it's either him or Endo at this point because Bajcetic is out and for a couple more weeks, I'd say, and then also Tiago still being out. Um, Looking at Gravenberch, though, he is 21. He's a big, lanky guy, and he's good at carrying the ball. I would say that could be a good signing. We didn't see him much play at Bayern, which uh, was kind of surprising throughout the season. But if you can find that form in Klopp, I mean, I can probably name it only on with fingers on my hand the amount of Klopp signings that went wrong. So I think this could work out. I just like to see what happens, whether we stick with our 4-3-3 with the 6 and 2 8s, or we switch to two defensive-minded midfielders and probably McAllister and Endo, or McAllister and Gravenberch, or McAllister and Endo in those spots with Szoboszlai moving forward. And I could see Gakpo also filling in that spot where Szoboszlai is. Let's say he gets injured or just for rotational reasons. So the reason I don't give us an A or an A plus, I mean, with 4 midfield signings that have good potential to become great for our team, is we didn't really fight for that center back spot, which I would have gone for. We had a number of options, and we just didn't even really try that hard at all. And it goes to show FSG really is not as aggressive as we'd like them to be, which they really never have, except for when they got 140 million from Coutinho because Barca overspent on him, and he was a great player, but he was never worth that in a million years. So, like I said, in January, I would like to see us go for Andre, fill in that 6 spot, really hold it down because we've been linked to him for a couple weeks now, and the Brazilian league is a different beast, and I think he can change into becoming that star defensive midfielder. We've seen a number of them come out of Brazil and become great players, and he is playing with the likes of Marcelo on his team right now. So if all the chips fall in place, we could be getting him. And to be fair, I'd still like to see Bajcetic break through the lines of our team, but yeah, so I would say B or B minus at this point. But yep, with the squad we have, we should be competing for top 4. So
yeah, let me ask you something real quick. So obviously Liverpool, they've had one of the better defenses over the past 5 years. It's steadily declined ever since they won their Champions League title. But do you think that FSG has become overly reliant on that defense? Obviously you have Robertson, who's kind of a diamond in the rough. You got him for next to nothing. He turned out to be one of the best left backs in the world. He hasn't looked that great this season. You look at Van Dijk, he was the best center back in the world at one point. He was second in the Ballon d'Or rankings, above Cristiano Ronaldo. And you look at Joel Matip, he brought in on a free. He's also looked really incredible next to Van Dijk, but these past 2 seasons he's looked like a shell of himself as well. And Alexander-Arnold, his main criticism is he's never been able to defend that well. Obviously we all know what he's able to do on the attack and everything, and now Klopp's starting to push him into that 6 role and the double pivot role. But do you think they need some more defensive help next to Van Dijk, or do you think maybe it's time to move on from Van Dijk and a few other players? I know we just saw him get a red against Newcastle. His first red, I think, as a Liverpool red, So, see what I did there. But do you think it's time for Liverpool to move on from this defense and start building something new?
See, before I answer, I think some of these points that you were bringing up are just a little bit of media narrative. Last year, our defense was not the greatest because the midfield that we had could not run and defend like a Jurgen Klopp team. It had just been in decline. Henderson, Fabinho, the likes of those two. And we were starting Harvey Elliott, which I think of this season he's shown his prominence a lot better, especially defensively. But you're forgetting the year before last year, we were fighting for a quadruple with, many clean sheets. So I think it was just a matter of time before there was just a burnout. And I would definitely not say we move on from Van Dijk for a couple of years from now. I think that's a ridiculous question. Konate is astoundingly good player. But the problem is if one of those two are out, you're left with Matip, Gomez, and Kwanzaa, with Nat Phillips also being loaned out. So I personally would have gone for a younger, probably left-footed defender that can cover a lot of ground, just like Konate and Van Dijk. But in that department, I think we just need one more player, and that's also why I didn't rate us an A. And Robertson, yeah, I would say Robertson out of all of them is having the hardest time right now, but still a great player. And Tsimikas, if he needs to come in for a couple of games to compete and to show that he still has his quality, then I'm for it because we've seen many times Tsimikas come into the team and really make a difference, really get some good balls in the box and also win tackles. And in terms of Trent, he is an astoundingly good player. I believe in the guy 100%. And if one mistake happens to him, the whole football community is on his back, no matter what. If it's his fault, if there's a 6-foot guy that jumps over top of him, he's the problem. It's his fault 100% of the time. Whereas other players, they don't get the criticism. He's faced many, many, many good wingers, and on occasion he does get beat, such as Vinny Jr. No one in the world can defend Vinny Jr., and I think that's where most of this started, because Vinny Jr. is probably the best dribbler apart from Messi in the world right now.
Kyle Walker
and no one
very well last game. Last time they played in the Champions League, Vinny couldn't do anything against Kyle Walker.
Araujo puts him in his pocket.
Also, Ronaldo Araujo kind of shut him down twice.
But your point still stands. I've
never regarded him as being the best one-on-one defender. I'm saying the second that something happens, everyone's on his back. Okay,
that's true.
That's all I'm saying. And Kyle Walker is a bit getting up there now, and he also did have a problem against Sheffield where he got scored on, but no media attention on that, no dog pile on that, no nothing from any of you two, especially the rest of the media.
He made a terrible mistake. He made a terrible mistake, and we all dogged on him for it. But at least he made up. He made up for it the next go around once the play was back in play. He pretty much contributed to their winning goal.
He created them a goal like 5 minutes later. That's why we didn't say anything.
Yeah, that's why we didn't hate. Now, if they would have tied that game, I think we would have said something. We would have definitely, if they would have tied that game, we would have dogged on him for it. Which he knows. And I like
when I'm making a point about Trent, then you two jump in immediately.
Well, no, you were saying neither of us made a point that that Kyle Walker
let me finish my point. I'd like to finish my
point.
Go ahead.
Finish your point.
talking about contributing as a right back. The guy's the number one contributor in right backs in Premier League history, and the guy's 23. So that's something that also does not get the recognition, even though he's probably the second best passer in the whole Premier League behind Kevin De Bruyne as a right back who's 23 years old. So he's defended many good players. Here and there, he gets caught out. I agree. It's not perfect. But that's why I'm saying we need another center back, so if Konate or Van Dijk are out, they can be there for him. And we also have a lanky, long, quick center mid now that can, if, say, Trent is up, can cover. And we have Endo, who last year in the Bundesliga was one of the top in tackles, top in interceptions, top in 1v1s, top in heading clearances. So Klopp's thinking here. It's not like it's just like, oh, Trent, run up the field, and then if you get beat, oh, let's just keep doing that over and over, okay? There's a reason for these type of things. And when Konate is out, we saw it in the World Cup as well with France, teams get caught out. So, and that goal against Newcastle, I don't think he was fully ready for it. He also just had all that junk go on with him and throwing the ball and him getting a yellow card for that. And then later on in the game, Anthony Gordon kicks the ball and he doesn't get the same punishment for that. So, I mean, I understand where people are coming from. Yeah, he gets caught out sometimes, but I mean, the guy is a wizard when he hits the ball. So I will say that.
First of all, he made Anthony Gordon look like Cristiano Ronaldo. Come on, dude. like that's kind of what happened. You know, he cooked Liverpool.
The ball went under his foot, and he was through on goal.
My main point was not to tear down Liverpool's
He didn't look
defense.
like Ronaldo whatsoever. Anthony Gordon is one of the most overrated footballers in the entire Premier League right now.
Okay, he just burst onto the scene.
50 million for a guy who scored like 5 goals in his whole entire career.
Well,
he
torched
Liverpool. But going back to Liverpool, you know, so my main point of that original question was: do you think it's time to cash in on Liverpool like Van Dijk or Robertson while they still have good value?
No.
Right? You still think they're one of the best in the world, which. I don't know, man. They kind of both fell off a step.
I would say Van Dijk is.
I would keep Konate, and I would keep Alexander-Arnold, but I don't know if I would keep Van Dijk. You know, he kind of hasn't looked the same this season, you know. And even parts of last season, he just didn't look that good, you know. So he's not the defender he was when he was number 2 in the Ballon d'Or rankings. You got to admit that.
Well, we have the best goalie in the world, too.
That season where he wasn't dribble past the whole season, he's not that player anymore. We all know that. Come on.
I never said he was. When did I say he was that guy? He would have been number 1 if they did it back-to-back years.
Also, if we're not talking about injuries, Alisson is not the best keeper in the world. The best keeper in the world for the last 2 years has been Courtois. And then if we talk about last season, I would probably give it to Ter Stegen. Because that man did not let a single, he let 12 goals in? Ter Stegen was an unbelievable monster.
De Gea had more clean sheets than everyone else in the Premier League. Does that make him the best?
No, because he also had
free agent right now.
He also had the most blunders. De Gea had the most blunders.
According to rankings right now of 1v1 chances and saves, Alisson is the best goalkeeper in the world, as well as being the best sweeper keeper in the world, which Courtois is not. And neither is Ter Stegen.
Well, Ter Stegen almost broke the record for the most clean sheets in a season, so I would say he had the best season last season, by far. When it comes to previous seasons, I
haven't seen Ter Stegen make a save like Alisson's against Newcastle since 2015 Champions League.
Stop, dude. Look up any highlight tape for Ter Stegen, bro.
Alisson's save against Newcastle is already the save
incredible.
of the season.
It was the save of the season, I agree, but it's only been 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna get punished.
Come on, dude. You're discrediting Ter Stegen.
tested.
And just because we're saying that Alisson isn't the best goalie in the world doesn't mean you have to rip down Ter Stegen or Courtois, dude. Courtois is an amazing goalie.
I didn't rip into anyone until you guys ripped into Alisson.
We didn't even rip him. We just said he wasn't the best in the world. He's number 2 or 3. That's not a disservice to him.
Yeah. He's still a top 3 keeper.
I would say right now those are the 3 best keepers in the world. Would you disagree?
And on their day, you can rotate them within
70%. If Liverpool kept possession 70% of the time and won most of our games 1-0, Alisson would be breaking the record easily. So that's all I got to say. but he was in a team that was struggling in the midfield last year, and he saved us probably from being 10th or 12th place down where Chelsea was last year. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Had to throw shade on Chelsea there.
He likes to. It's okay. It's okay. It's
Right.
okay.
Well, the last team
Anyways.
out of our favorites here that we haven't talked about is Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea made a lot of moves this transfer window, bringing in.
That's an understatement. A lot of moves.
I know.
More
It seemed like every week they were bringing a signing or two or sending someone out. Like it was constant. You know, they have unlimited money and they're stretching all of their transfers out over eight windows. So it's like it's very smart on their part. But you know, they're bringing a lot of great players, but it hasn't.
A lot of loopholes.
It hasn't worked out. Well, it's not a loophole. It's just how it is.
It was a loophole. They closed it.
But
so these
these
8 year contracts, they're only spent through 5 years now, though.
Right. That's fine and all, but Chelsea, you know, they were smart and they did it when they could, right? So Sam, how would you rate Chelsea's window, based on all their transfers, based on all their departures, you know, just the whole thing, and how they're gelling so far? How would you rank it?
I would probably say B plus, A minus range. I think we did. I think what the stage that Chelsea's at this point, we are in that rebuilding mode. You saw that when we started shipping out a lot of our old players, our veterans that have been there for a while, and the likes of Aspilicueta, Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, Eduardo Mendy, Kepa for a year. Like, we got rid of everybody from our 2021 squad that won us the Champions League. Christian Pulisic, to Ziyech, just to name a few. And then most recently, buys of Koulibaly and them. Every team in every sport, no one can say they don't do this, but everybody goes through a time where they have to rebuild and know when their window is over. And Chelsea's window, I think, came to an end maybe last season, maybe a season before. I just think that we didn't have the right coaches. Graham Potter wasn't the answer. Graham Potter's one of those coaches you have to give like 3 to 4 years before something happens. You saw that with Brighton. I think De Zerbi is a different story. I think he'll be a great manager. He only needs a couple years. But Tuchel, he's not a player coach. He's not really a player's coach. He really struggles with the big name players. We saw that at PSG when he was managing the likes of Neymar and Mbappe and Cavani and all of them. He struggled to win games with them, and that's why he lost his job. You saw him struggle at Bayern Munich last year when he first got there with Sadio Mane, Leroy Sané, Thomas Muller. A lot of them don't really like him. Right now, he's kind of in the hot seat because he's not playing Jamal Musiala, who's literally their best player, who could be a $200 million transfer someday if he moves away from Bayern. But I think Chelsea made the smart decisions. We went younger. We brought in Nico Jackson. We paired Enzo Fernandez with probably the second best CDM on the market in Moises Caicedo, behind Declan Rice, who he's played 2 games. He was okay. It was okay his first game just because they just brought him in. It was against. It was kind of like he had that pressure to step up, but his second game he played in against Luton, looked phenomenal next to Enzo Fernandez. Kept it down in the middle of the park. I was shocked that we kept Conor Gallagher at the end of the day. I thought if we brought in another midfielder, we would probably let him go. We made that decision. I wish we got rid of Cucurella. He just doesn't fit us. He's not good. I don't think he should be on our team. I think Ian Matson's a perfect backup. He's young. He can develop behind Ben Chilwell. I like what we did with our defense and our goalie. We brought in Robert Sanchez. I hope we go get Kasper Schmeichel on a free. He is a free agent. His contract was just terminated by Nice, and we've been linked to him in recent weeks, even when we brought in Petrovic and Robert Sanchez, because Petrovic is only 21, but we did spend 17 mil on him. And if you watched him for New England Red Revolution, there's a reason why they're in second place in the MLS standings because of him. And they really desperately, you could see obviously why they missed him during the MLS Leagues Cup. He'll be good in the future. I just think we'll probably end up loaning him out in January. Maybe if we don't sign another keeper, then he can be our backup because he's not bad. He's just very young. But if we can bring in Cash Franco, that'd be great. But I like what we did. Axel Diassi, amazing signing to replace Wesley Fofana with another ACL tear. That's, I believe, 2 ACL tears in the last 3 years, which is unfortunate for him because he was very promising for coming up for France and for us and when he was at Leicester. Right now, it's just our injuries. We're piling up in injuries. Reece James is hurt. I know Ben Chilwell has a knock. Mudryk has a knock. That's why we haven't really seen him much. Sterling's been very inconsistent. Braha's still coming back from injury, so we don't have a backup striker there. And Kunu's out for at least until probably November. But all in all, a decent buys, good sells. We needed to shed some money off of it. I like where the team's at. We brought in Cole Palmer, which if you watched him during preseason, he looked pretty good. He had a great shot back post in one of their preseason games, or in the Community Shield, I believe.
Yeah,
against
it was a Community
Arsenal,
Shield against Arsenal.
Yeah, it was a rocket into the back stick. I think he's going to be good. He can play cam or right wing. I wish we did bring in another center mid. I wish we could have brought someone in, but all in all, I think it's a good signing. I think we'll be perfect, and if we have to bring anyone in, we'll do it in January.
Hey, Sam, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, what's up?
So, over the past, let's say 2 windows, okay? You signed like 20-something people, I'd say, around there. I don't know the exact number. It's
More
like
than
you
that.
said, it's all the time. So, in each section of the field, who's the one standout signing? You mean you made so many. There's got to be someone that you can point out for, goalkeeper, defender, like one standout for this next season. Who will it be for each?
For each position?
Like
you
your
go through,
attacking area, your midfield area, your defensive area, and your goalkeeper. Who's the standout for each? Because, I mean, it's hard to keep up for people that don't read Fabrizio Romano's tweets every day. Like, oh, Chelsea just signed this guy. Like, it's honestly hard to keep up. Like, there's so many guys. Like, they're like maybe like 19 that you don't even know.
Yeah, and you hit it right. We do sign a lot. We signed 18 in the in Bowley's first window, and then we signed 14 this window. A lot of them were. You have to remember a lot of our guys that we signed are young, coming from Brazil, like likes of David Washington from Santos. We also got in a couple other guys from Santos. Probably in goal, Roberto Sanchez is the most obvious one out of our signings, just because Petrov has not played and Robert Sanchez has experience in the Premier League with Brighton. Probably in defense, our signing, probably Diassi. Body Shield just been injured a lot, and Fofana's been somewhat non-existent with his injuries too. So Axel Diassi probably in the center backs. Midfield has to be Enzo. Enzo's probably the most consistent player. He played every game since he's been there. Unfortunately, we haven't got those wins. Up front would probably be Nkunu, but we haven't seen him play in the Premier League. But if you're just basing it off what we saw this preseason, I believe he had, 2 goals and 3 assists during the Summer Begins tour, that Premier League. Yeah, and he was linking up with Nico very well because they were playing him right under. So I would probably say Nkunu, but if Nkunu doesn't count because he's injured, Nico Jackson. He got his first goal against Luton off of an assist, a beautiful ball played in right in front of him from Sterling. Sterling had an amazing game. But yeah, I would probably go with them.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued with the Cole Palmer thing. I really am, because for many years he kind of was just in the shadows at City, and the fact that City just allows him to just go to Chelsea like that, like, just shows that they're like, we really could care less. We're probably going to win the Premier League title regardless if this guy goes or not, and they'll find some new guy that just,
No,
or they'll go out and pay 100 mil
yeah.
for some new guy that'll be his potential
Mhm.
in a couple of years.
City's known for doing that. Like, yeah, they just signed a really high rated youngster from West Ham who was released from his contract, Jamal Basti. He's a center back. He was highly rated. They just signed him and then loaned him out. We've seen that in the past. We saw the likes of Jadon Sancho leave the youth academy from Man City. We've seen, I believe, who else? I think Bellingham was in City's academy at one point, and they let him go. So that it's not uncommon
Birmingham.
for.
Wasn't it Birmingham?
He might have been. It might have not been Bellingham, but I know like a lot of. There's been a few big names that have came English players that have came through City's academy that has left and then succeeded somewhere else. So I wasn't too overly shocked that they did that. His fee for 45 million for how young he is, or 42.5 million, which raises it was like 2 million add-ons, so it makes it 42. But he's shown that he can play. It shows that he's not scared. He's only 21, so we got him for 7 years plus a option for an 8th year. So he's going to be with us for a while.
Chelsea contracts are insane, man. 8-year contracts for everyone, dude. Everyone's got. Here's an 8-year contract. You get an 8-year contract.
Yeah, it's because we sign them for that long, but we pay the teams in like installments and like for like the next 5 years we have to pay them.
Yeah.
So it technically evens out for how much we get them.
Apart from Enzo and Mudryk, I think the rest of them when they were signed for that long, it's only 5 years now. They cut that out, which.
Well, Enzo's 10. If you count his option, he has 10.
That's insane.
But yeah, Cole Palmer's is an 8-year deal technically if you add his option, but it's 7 plus 1. Like we do sign a lot of these players for a lot, but it kind of balances out with how we pay it.
Do you think this is the new wave? Like, do you think teams will just start doing these like 8-year deals? We saw Gravenberch today; he was only signed to a 5-year deal, so. Do you think some teams are going to start doing these 8-year deals apart from Chelsea?
I could see some teams doing it, and I could see some teams not. It's just I feel like with the young players, it's more common. I would feel like to do it with them, but like 25 and older, where most teams will buy from, will do 5 years, maybe. I see the max at 6. Like we saw Mateus Nunes go for 5 plus 1. So I think it's the preference of what the club thinks, and every club's different. But we never know.
One team that should focus that is Casey's team, Barcelona. I think Lamine Yamal should get an 8 to 10 year deal at this point. They could keep playing like this. The guy
first need to figure out how
he's been their best player.
They first need to figure out how to get money. Then they need to figure out how to register their players, and then they need to figure out how to play their players. So they're
once the new Camp Nou opens, we're gonna sell 100,000 tickets per game, double what Anfield sells. So it's gonna
welcome to the Spotify Camp.
We're getting a new stand. It's just not fully.
It's gonna be 10 times Luton, Premier League Luton.
Welcome to Spotify Camp Nou with your halftime performance of Shakira.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Come on, we'd all love that.
That would be.
Just switching gears. So we did see the Champions League draw this past week, and a lot of incredible teams, in the Champions League this year. And I would say one of the more stacked Champions Leagues we've had. Leaving out Caleb's Liverpool, of course, but he's down
Chelsea. Don't forget us.
Chelsea's irrelevant here. Okay, come on. But anyways. Because they didn't make any European competition. But anyways,
I get it.
But anyways, we'll start with Group A. Bayern Munich, who have been a menace
Hey,
to
they play Arsenal?
Barcelona for 2 years now. So I'm glad that we didn't get put in the same group because we won the league, same as them. But
Well,
in
they
the
don't.
second pot, Manchester United from England, they're going to be a great watch. Eric Ten Hag's first appearance here in the Champions League since his Ajax days, and he's
I
has a
really
whole
wish it
new
was
squad to do
Arsenal.
it. Shut up, Sam.
That would be
Uh,
funny.
Then we have FC Copenhagen from Denmark at a pot 3. And lastly, Galatasaray at a pot 4 from Turkey. And, I think this might be a really interesting group, honestly. Outside of that first spot, I think Bayern's going to get it easily. But when it comes to the second spot, I think the other teams are going to give Man U a run for their money.
Yeah, I think
Galatasaray is
so
a
too.
really solid squad, and same with Copenhagen. A lot of teams, or a lot of people sleep on teams that aren't in the top 4 to 5 leagues. So when you see a Galatasaray, you might think, "Oh, Man U, they're a big club; they'll get past them." Oh, Copenhagen, we don't even know who that. I mean, some people don't even know who they are. But guess what? They're gonna put up a great fight. They have some quality talent. I want to know, Kale, what you think of this group and where you see everyone ranking.
I mean, yeah, it's a toss up, I'd say, between Galatasaray and Man U. I mean, Man U's had some trouble recently over the past couple years in the Champions League, likes of young boys, having trouble with teams like in the Europa League, like Sevilla last year, and then Sociedad. So we could see a great masterclass by Ten Hag, but we also could see a complete capitulation. I mean, Man U hasn't been the strongest team this year, so I would, if I were a betting man, I would put Man U there, but I'm not confident. I'm not confident in them this year.
Yeah,
Sam?
yeah. This group intrigues me. There's a lot of storylines. There's a lot of history. Let's just start with it. United, they have in the past have suffered losses in the group stage to Copenhagen and Galatasaray. And you forget that during United's glory run in 1999, they had to play Bayern Munich in the finals, which United ended up winning um, in Barca against Bayern 2-1. There is that storyline history of Tuchel versus Ten Hag. And not much people know Ten Hag was an assistant coach at Bayern Munich during Pep Guardiola's reign in Bayern Munich. You have Kane versus Holland, strikers back to back. You have Kane, who was linked to Man United for the last 2 transfer windows, ends up going to Bayern. So that's going to be interesting. And then, like Caleb said, it could be a toss up between United and Galatasaray and Copenhagen. My prediction, this might be real out there, but I'm gonna go Bayern 1. I'm gonna go Galatasaray 2. I think Galatasaray wins on the last day. I think they have a quality squad. You look at the likes of, and people don't know, but Galatasaray has Mario Icardi,
Yep.
has Hakeem Ziyech, has Kareem Dembar, has Shakshi Bowie, still has Muslera, who's a very underrated keeper, has a very good team.
Wolf
They
Zaha.
have the likes, yeah, Wilfred Zaha, who they got on a free. Dries Mertens, the all-time scoring leader at Napoli, and there's a chance of them signing Sergio Ramos to in the back. If they can get Ramos, I don't see them. I don't see them struggling in Turkey in the Turkish league, and I don't see them struggling in the Champions League because they really only need center backs. They're very good all around the pitch. United, on the other hand, I'm scared just because they didn't bring it. They brought in a number 9, but they didn't bring in an experienced number 9. That's the only thing that I'm worried about with Ramis Holland because he is only 19, 20 years old. You didn't, and you have no cover behind him. What you got to play Martial up there? What are they going to do? I do think that most of their game will be controlled in the midfield. I believe they got a steal of a signing, which Atletico Madrid and Liverpool missed out on in getting Sofi Amrabat from Fiorentina. And you put him and Casemiro in your defensive midfield pairing. Ooh, you're gonna have some struggles getting through them. But I just think that it's gonna. I just think it's gonna come down to the last day. No disrespect to Copenhagen, but Copenhagen's gonna last. I'm going Bayern Munich, Galatasaray, and then Man United.
All right. Moving on to Group B. This is another really interesting pot, actually, of teams here. So out of pot one, we have Sevilla out of Spain. They do have a lot of their key players. We just saw them in the Supercopa play against Manchester City. And that was a quality game that went to penalties. And honestly, I thought Sevilla was going to win it, but Man City did win in penalties. So we do have Sevilla. Out of pot two, we have Arsenal, who finished second in the Premier League last year. Had a really young squad. They're coming up, gaining more experience, and a lot of people picked them to be second again in the Premier League. So they are also one of the favorites in the Champions League this year. I believe they're ranked fourth out of the Champions League rankings. So they're expected to win this group, but we will see. There's also PSV Eindhoven out of the Netherlands. They just picked up Serginho Dest, my boy, from Barca, and they're also a really solid squad out in the Netherlands. And then you have RC Lens, who might seem a bit underwhelming here, but they also are a pretty solid team, and I think they'll be able to put up a fight in this pot of teams here. Sam, we'll go to you first. What do you think of this group? Who do you have winning it? Is it Arsenal? And who do you have getting that second spot?
Yeah, I think Arsenal takes it. I think it's going to be a clean sweep. I don't think they'll lose in the group stage. I think they're better than all these teams. They just got even better getting Declan Rice. Yes, they lost Yuri Timbers, who was a big blow to them because he was supposed to come in and play kind of that right back position. But they brought in Declan Rice. I hope they figure out what they're going to do with their midfield because, like we've always mentioned in these podcasts, Havertz is not the answer. Havertz is not good. Why is he starting with Odegaard? Why don't you play Odegaard longer? Makes no sense. But other than all, Arsenal just has a better team. They have most likely they're going to play David Raya in these situations, so it'll be interesting to see because they'll probably take the Champions League games because they have two number ones that could play on most teams. And it's been 6 years since we've seen Arsenal, so I bet that place the Emirates is going to be bumping. Second place, I think it's just Arsenal. It's their group to lose. Yes, Arsenal, Sevilla lost a few people like Gonzalo Montiel, who went to Nottingham Forest on deadline in this transfer window. They terminated Alejandro Papu Gomez's contract. He's probably on his way to Saudi Arabia. Yes, they are the Europa League kings, but I see them making it second. But I don't count out Eindhoven, PSV Eindhoven, with them signing Irving Lozano on the last day of the transfer window today, having Ricardo Pepi, having, like you mentioned, Serginho Dest. Hopefully he looked good his first game. I believe he played 81 minutes and looked pretty good. And then Lens, they have Chelsea target Eric Wale, young 21-year-old striker they signed from Montpellier, who can bag goals in Ligue 1, and they transitioned last year when they played in European competition. But I think it will go Arsenal, Sevilla, PSV, and Lens.
It is actually Lens' first Champions League appearance in 21 years, which is something spectacular. So I think if they get any points here, they'll be happy. I think they will. They'll at least get a point or two. But if they get a win, especially at home, their stadium's gonna be rocking. That's for sure. Caleb, who do you have here?
Yeah, so I think Arsenal, like Sam said, it's our group to lose. I'm not sure they win every game, but because I mean, to be fair, we got to give some respect to these away ties that they're gonna have. So I will say that they might have a couple of ties here and there. I'm gonna go with PSV getting second though. I think they have enough to overtake and Sevilla last year in the league, not so great. Losing Bono, losing a couple of key guys. I just don't see it this time. And that worries me because the Europa League is their league. So yeah, if PSV can really turn it on, I think that they'll make a second. And then Lens, as long as they put up a fight and don't get all losses, then I'd say it's a win for them.
All right. Now going down to Group C. This is Sam's group here with Real Madrid. So out of pot one, we have the Italian champions in Napoli. Carlo Ancelotti, another storyline, going back home, coached them for 1.5 seasons, so he's going to be able to see what he's been missing out with and how Napoli have evolved since he's been there. Out of pot two, we do have Real Madrid, who finished second behind Barcelona last year in the La Liga race. But they are set to make another Champions League run like they've done time and time again to all of our demise. But then out of pot three, we have SC Braga out of Portugal. They probably won't do too much in this group, in my estimation. But they made it to the Champions League, and that's a big part. So I'm already counting them out here, but we'll see. And then my dark horse in this group is Union Berlin, who was a top 3 finisher in the Bundesliga last year, and was one of the was pushing for that race with Bayern until the last end of the season. They're also bringing in Leonardo Bonucci from Juventus, reportedly set to join them. And it's going to be an interesting group, that's for sure. And Real Madrid's going to actually have some competition for one. So we will see. Sam, we'll go to you first since your team is in this group. How do you see it fishing out?
Yeah, I think Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid tops the group. I think we win all of our games except for when we go to Napoli. I think it will be a draw. I don't see how we can win in Napoli. I just think that place is an unbelievable place to play at, and their stadium and their atmosphere going into the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona Stadium, the home of Maradona for a long time. Yes, we'll be without Vinny for the early stages, so hopefully it shouldn't affect us. We rarely struggle in the group stage. Napoli will easily finish second. They were able to keep hold of Victor Osimhen. He had an unbelievable season last year. A very, very good striker. Yeah, they lost Irving Lozano, like I mentioned, but towards the end of the season last year, he just wasn't playing. He didn't really affect or make any changes into the game. They have the one winger, the Georgian winger. I can never say his name. But he but he's amazing. I believe he can flourish in getting second in the group, and then third place I would probably go Union Berlin. I don't know how they'll do. They lost Jordan Pefok. They loaned him out to Gladbach, which I was very surprised. So I think if if they can get the goal scoring from Fofana, that who's on loan from Chelsea, maybe. Yes, they brought in Brendan Aronson on loan. Yes, they brought in Leonardo Bonucci, but the problem is Leonardo Bonucci is not the same Leonardo Bonucci we've seen at Juventus for multiple years. And then Braga, they'll finish last. Their biggest signing of the window was bringing João Moutinho in, but other than that, they'll finish last.
Yeah, we both agree on that one. Union Berlin, though, I don't know. You're sleeping on them just a bit here.
Really?
I know Napoli's tough. I mean, that they were the champions for a reason. but Union Berlin was almost the champions of Germany, so you got to remember
Well,
that.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, they brought in David Jotro Fofana. Yes, they brought in Kevin Folland, who can maybe will replace the goal scoring from um, PFOC. They brought in Robin Gosens, which I thought was a good signing for them to bring in from Inter. They have a good team. It's like a quality of players that won't be on like a major team. They're all like
Right.
they know their roles, which they also have their vice captain is Ronnie Kadira, Sammy Kadira's brother, who's a good midfielder in his own right. But their squad's good. I just think Napoli and Real Madrid are just too overpowering for them. But like I said, for them and Braga, scoring a goal and losing is a victory for them because you have the likes of the 14-time champions coming into your stadium at a 22,000 capacity stadium. Like you're not gonna turn that down, and it's gonna their tickets for that are gonna skyrocket.
How great would it be if Madrid goes out in the group stage to Berlin?
We are not Barcelona. We do not do that.
All right, we'll see, man. You guys don't have any attack now, so
We still got
we'll
Rodrigo.
move on to Group C
and
here.
you say we have no attack. You forget Jose Lu scored 16 goals in La Liga last year.
Bro, who
So we
cares?
do have an attack. Jose Lu
Don't-
can score goals. You forget about that. What about
He's
that?
not
bike in
Benzema.
preseason?
He's not Vinny.
He's not Benzema. He's not Vinny, but he still can score goals. Like
Rodrigo's
16
not
goals,
Vinny. Rodrigo's
16
not
goals
Benzema.
last year is not bad for La Liga.
Valverde's neither. He had a bad season last season.
Hey,
okay.
Rodrigo's good in the later stages when he comes on and scores a couple goals.
All right. Yeah, but he's playing now the whole game. All right, moving on to Group D. This is what I would call the group of dark horses.
Nice
Come
one.
on, Sam. Sam, come on. You know it's true. All these teams can compete with anyone, but they might. I mean, they're not expected to win it, But look at Inter last season. They were Champions League finalists. They could have won it all. Of course, Bayern and Inter, the Champions League finalists were in Barca's group, but that's besides the point. In pot one, we had Benfica out of Portugal. They're obviously they're always in the Champions League out of Portugal. They always finish in the top four. And they're always a force to be reckoned with. Out of pot two, I already brought up Inter Milan and their quality. They're good every season and Champions League tested. They've won back in 2010. They won the Champions League to Barca's demise yet again. But out of pot three, we have Red Bull Salzburg out of Austria. And they are another solid squad. I'm not picking them here, but And then fourth, Real Sociedad, another solid squad. Finished fourth in Spain. Still kept Martin Zubamendi, who a lot of people consider as the next Sergio Busquets. But they are another solid squad. Not the greatest, but like I said, this is a pretty balanced group. I would say Inter wins it, but balanced, I would say. Caleb?
Yeah, I think Inter has reloaded in a way that kind of is going under the radar a bit. So I'm going to take them to be number one. Salzburg, I want to say that they can make a pull, but Benfica is too strong, I think. They are a team that can make a run. I'm not sure how far it is, so I'm going to put them number two. Sociedad and Salzburg will fight out for that third spot. And I like how you put it, the whole dark horse thing, Casey. I think it's those two and then two dark horses that could make it. I'm going to edge it to Sociedad, though, at third, and then Salzburg go fourth.
Sam, what do you think of this group?
Yeah. I don't know if I would say dark horse.
I was saying dark horses in the sense of the Salzburg and Sociedad could make a break to one of the second spot.
For me, it's a tough one. My The logical thing says go Inter at 1, but the losses of players they lost 3 keepers. They lost Andrea Onana. They lost Handanovic. They lost Romelu Lukaku. 3 keepers right there. They lost Edin Dzeko. If you're listening to the podcast, you'll catch on the joke. Um, uh, they lost. They just. Yes, they brought in Benjamin Pavard. Yes, they brought in one of my favorite center mids watching play, David Fratis from Sassuolo. Inter likes to play that 2 strikers with one as a target to run off of for the other one. The problem is they don't have that anymore. They lost Lukaku. They lost Johan Correa. They lost Dzeko. You bring in a 36, 37-year-old Alexis Sanchez. I don't know. That was a very weird move. He was also linked to Barca, which also made no sense. He's old. He's not the same player he once was. Marcus Thuram, I love Marcus Thuram, but he likes to get wide a lot. He started out as a mid left wing before he moved to striker. And then you have Lorato Martinez. You don't have that target, number 9. I'm going to make a... You're all going to probably come back to me when the Champions League's all over. I'm going to go with Benfica at 1. Just the quality in players. They signed Arthur Cabral from Fiorentina, who had a really good season last year, banging goals. You still have the captain in Nicolas Otamendi. You kept Rafa Silva for another year. You have a really good center forward, center defensive mid, and Fiorentino, who has been linked to multiple clubs. You still have Gonzalo Guedes on loan. You have João Mario. And they brought in Di Maria to play up front with David Neres. You have Akucha, who came from Turkey. You have a solid squad. I'm gonna pick. And don't forget the most highly talented young center back in Antonio Silva, the Portuguese defender. I'm going with Benfica 1. I'm gonna take Inter at 2. I'll take Real Sociedad at 3 just because I don't think losing David Silva to an ACL tear. They lost that in the midfield. Yes, they kept Martin, whatever his last name is, Zubimendi.
Yeah.
Zubimendi. They lost Ilarmendi to Chicago or to FC Dallas. Yes, they brought in Arsen Zakranyan from the Russian league. They kept some of their guys. Yes, they brought in Oriozola back, but I think they're going to really lack that creative play in the midfield. They did some good signings here and there, bringing in, like I said, Andre Silva, Taka Kubo, Kieran Tierney on loan. But I just think Sociedad finishes 3rd. And then Salisbury, they're only good for one thing, and that's sending good players to Red Bulls. That sends them to everybody else.
All right, moving over to Group E. For me, this one, it's not looking the most interesting. Just from when it first started, from when they first pulled it, and looking back at it now, pot 1, Feyenoord out of the Netherlands. They're a solid squad. Do I think they play interesting and attractive football? No, they really don't. Same with Atletico Madrid out of pot 2. They play defensive football. That's kind of the David Simeone way. Lazio, same thing. They play defensive football. They don't score that many goals. They play defensively on the counter. And Celtic, yet again, a lot of their players, they don't have the experience in the top leagues and everything, and they don't have the talent in order to compete. So I'm not really too interested in this group. I'm picking Atletico to win it, just pure talent and experience. And then I'm picking Lazio just because I think they have more talent than Feyenoord. And that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say about it. Caleb, what do you think about this group?
I'm gonna slightly disagree with you. I'm gonna keep Atleti at the top, just like you, but I think I'm gonna go Feyenoord at second. Just based off of last year and some of the signings they made that really haven't had the full amount of time, like a full season to develop. One example that comes to mind is Sam Jimenez. I think he's just gonna be someone to watch out for in this group because last year the guy was the top scorer in the Europa League for a while, and I see him kind of breaking out even more, just like he did in the Gold Cup where he sent Mexico on at the last minute. So I'm going to go with them. Lazio slightly misses, and then sadly Celtic will be last.
Sam?
Yeah. All these guys play defensive football, which will probably be a bunch of ties. It's pretty much they're gonna be all thinking, who's gonna not concede the most out of these people? Because they either play a defensive shape or they play five in the back. For me, Atletico tops the group, which I think is the most obvious one. In this one, this might be the most clear and obvious group who's gonna win it. I'm gonna go Celtic for number 2. Celtic. I think.
Remember that podcast. Remember that.
Yeah, they lost.
Yeah, we'll look back at this.
They lost Ontic. Unfortunately, they lost their coach, but they were able to keep a lot of the players that were looked on the move, like Matt O'Reilly, a young midfielder from Denmark. They were able to keep Cameron Carter-Vickers. They have experience with Joe Hart in goal, who had a phenomenal season last year in the Scottish division. They have Alstar Johnston, a really good defender from Canada. They got Nat Phillips at center back to play with Cameron Carter-Vickers. They have James McCarthy. They have an all-around decent squad that can compete. They got very good squad. Lazio, I'm torn between Feyenoord and Lazio because my only thing is Lazio has a bunch of guys that are linked to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's window does not close until September 20th, which comes me to believe that they could lose a few more people. Like, yes, Luis Alberto did sign a new contract, but you have seen in the past before when players have signed new contracts and then they have left. For a great example is Thiago Silva has done it. He did it when he signed a new contract with AC Milan, and then 20 days later he left for PSG. So my thing is I'm only skeptical about them with that instance, and then their squad is very old. And they lost their best player in Milinkovic Savic. They signed Tati Castellanos, but they don't use him. They have a Mobile up there all by himself who's getting older. They have a very old defense. Yes, they brought in Kamada. He's a decent player, but I just don't think. I'm just going to say this out loud. Lazio either finishes third or fourth, but I'll go with third. Feyenoord, they finished last just because they don't have the depth. And they don't have the quality. You mentioned Santi Jimenez, Kirsch, but you forget Santi Jimenez doesn't start every game, and he doesn't play in every game. He's not their main starter, which is quite kind of shocking because you would think he would be playing every game. He's the future of Mexican football. He doesn't play. You have Quentin Timbers, who's very good on the ball, a midfielder during Timbers' brother, who's probably going to be gone by in January. And then they have Leo Gerdas. He was been linked to Red Bulls for the entire summer, didn't get the move, but he'll probably end up leaving in January. I feel like a lot. And then David Hackham, who's probably their most promising defender, will probably be gone in January. I just feel like they won't last and they will lose. I think they get last place.
Well, for an underwhelming group, that was a very hot take. We will definitely come back and revisit this as soon as the group stages are over. So moving on to Group F here. This is the group of death. we all see it here. This is going to be one to watch for sure, as are most of these games.
Some people
out,
might say this is the group of death, but I say it's the group of magic.
It's still the group of death. It could be both.
Magic.
It
Group
could
of
be
magic.
both. All right, out of pot one, Paris Saint-Germain. Obviously Mbappe, leading the show with Ousmane Dembele. They lost Neymar and Messi this past summer. So we'll see how they shape up in Europe. They haven't really had the best hopes, compared to the talent that have been on the squad. They're expected to win with Messi and Neymar, and they didn't even come close. So we'll see what they do without them. Mbappe is leading the show yet again, and we'll see. Out of pot two, Borussia Dortmund out of Germany. They obviously have a lot of young talent, and they're talented every year, even though it seems like they ship off another young player every single year. They just shipped off Sam's shirt on the back of his shirt, Jude Bellingham, for 105 million. They're still one of the top squads in Germany, so that's going to be another interesting team to watch. Out of pot three, AC Milan, another one of Sam's favorite teams. They obviously have the talent in order to face anyone. They did just lose Tonali, who went to Newcastle, who's in pot four of this group. So it's going to be a Tonali coming home type. And how is he going to be received by the AC Milan faithful? Sam, we'll start with you. How do you see this group starting out with, and who do you have? I mean, there's so many choices in this group.
To be honest,
who do you have here?
To be honest, this might be my favorite group. It might not even be my own Real Madrid group. This might be my favorite.
Yeah, it's my favorite
I would be paying more attention to this because I already know Real Madrid's going through.
Oh really? Union Berlin, watch out.
Okay. First of all, let's start with the big boys. They were drawn first. PSG. Yes, they lost the likes of Ramos that you did not mention. Messi. They lost. Who else? Neymar. I never forgot his name.
You forget Neymar, but you remember Ramos. That's so sad, bro.
Hey, Ramos. We love Ramos. They lost a lot of key players. Juan Bernat left today.
Verratti too, right?
Verratti is still there for the time being. Okay. But I don't think Luis Enrique is going to play him anytime soon. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. They brought in the likes of Marco Asensio. He's looked pretty good playing through centrally as that center forward role, but I think that changes once because they did spend $125 million on Randall Kolo Mooney for Frankfurt. He's a very good center forward. They also have Galanco Ramos, who's on loan with an option to buy. They have good strikers. They have really good center backs, and Skriniar now with Marquinhos was a great pairing. They're now back into that 4-back. They don't play that 3-back anymore because that's not Luis Enrique's style. I think they'll finish first. I think Donnarumma, and people forget, like you mentioned the Tonali homecoming. This is Donnaruma's homecoming too. Donnarumma was at AC Milan.
Yep.
He was back. He played at AC Milan for a little bit, and he was sad too when he left. He didn't want to leave either, but it's just the hierarchy didn't want to re-sign him and pay him all that money, which he at one point was arguably in conversations for one of the best goalies in the world after their Euro win. But either way, Donnarumma's young. He's still a good keeper. Probably one of the top 10, top 15 best in the world. I think PSG tops the group just because they have Kylian Mbappe, the Madrid-bound player in 2024. But Mbappe, everything goes through Mbappe. King Kylian, the Mbappe clan will run the show in this group. Second, now here's where it gets interesting. I'm going to go with my faithful, my AC Milan boys, the likes of Christian Pulisic, Olivier Giroud, who's on fire. He just scored his fifth goal, I believe, in Serie A today in the 2-1 beating of Roma. They have a great squad. They brought in Noah Okafor. They kept on the Theo Hernandez, Rafael Leao. I believe Benson Sir should be back in later stages going into the knockouts. They brought in Yunus Musa, who I love. They have an all around squad for Kyle Tamori, Samuel Chukwueze, Ruben Loftus Cheek, Tion Renders. They kept Micah Mangini, who was linked to move to Chelsea. They even brought in Luka Jovic, who has looked better in Serie A than he did for Real Madrid. But
Yeah, what happened with that one, Sam?
we don't need to talk about that. But they have a good squad, a young squad mixed with veterans like Florenzi. Florenzi coming back to play against PSG, another big thing. But I'm going AC Milan at 2. Sorry, I just can't. Number 3, Newcastle. I'm going Newcastle just because, and it could be either way. Any of these teams can win this group. Don't get me wrong. PSG might not win it. To be honest, I could see them getting knocked out and getting third with this team. Like it's all depends on what King Killian does. But for me, I'm gonna go Newcastle. Just the quality of Newcastle is very good. I just think they're lacking that left back position in their center backs. They needed to bring in another center back. I don't think their back line is that strong. Yes, they have arguably, I would say, the best right back in the Premier League last year and so far this season in Kieran Trippier. They don't have a left back. They play Dan Burns out at left back. Playing with Botman in the middle, they don't really have anyone else. Nick Pope is a very good keeper. But their main focus is in the middle of the park with Tonali and Bruno Gomez. But it just depends on who they play out wide. If it's Anthony Gordon or Harvey Barnes, Isak, can he contribute? And then on the right side, can Almiron replicate his form from last year, which will be interesting to see. Right now, he really hasn't. And he hasn't got that chance on goal. And then for me, last, Dortmund. They just don't have the quality anymore. Yes, Gio Reyna is there, but he's hurt always. Haller's still coming back from his cancer. Thorgan Hazard's back, but who knows how long he'll play. Yes, they signed Fulkerg from, I believe it was Wender Bremen, the German striker. He's older. Matt Hummels is older. Royce is older. They lost Rafael Guerrero to Bayern Munich, who everybody forgets he moved there, and that was an under the radar move. They brought in Sabitzer. They have a really good keeper in Kobel, and Julian Brandt's still there, but they just lack the quality. They don't have that star power that Bellingham brought to them, which out of this 4 groups, they are the weakest. But I'm going to go... No, I did just say my rankings, but I'm going to change it on you. I'm going to go AC Milan 1, Newcastle 2, PSG 3, and Dortmund 4.
Boy,
Yeah,
PSG
no,
3?
I can't go with the long with Sam.
Actually,
I
no.
really can't.
PSG. PSG 2. I'll go PSG 2, Newcastle 3, AC Milan finishes at the top of the group, Dortmund's out. Final say. I'm going with that. It's tough on me. It's tough because there's 3 quality teams and then Dortmund. But come on. Let's see what Kirk says.
Do you don't think Dortmund's a quality?
I just really am very surprised with the disrespect you put towards Borussia Dortmund.
Dude, they're not the same team.
You go on and on and on about the other 3 teams talking about players that are worse than the players that are on Dortmund. You're leaving out players like Julian Brandt here, too.
I said Julian
You're
Brandt.
leaving out players like Kareem Adeyemi that you didn't even bring up 1 second.
I like Kareem.
You're not even bringing up some of the good players. Mind you, Borussia Dortmund has the strongest fan base out of all of those teams.
Yeah, they do, but they don't.
And the hardest stadium to go to out of all 4 of those teams.
They do.
And you have Newcastle in that group, who is an extremely hard team, but Borussia Dortmund is a big step above that.
They don't have the quality.
In terms of going.
They don't have the
going to their stadium.
Okay, going to their stadium, but then
stadium.
but then you have to perform on the field, which they don't have the quality. that Newcastle, that Milan, that PSG have. They don't have that quality. Royce is getting older. Hummels is getting older. Ademi is not experienced enough. Mukoko is not experienced enough. Gio Reyna's always injured. Like, they don't have the experience.
We're going to disregard all this disrespect towards Dortmund. It's going to be Dortmund number 1, PSG number 2, AC Milan number 3, Newcastle number 4.
Where did Dortmund finish last?
They were where did they finish last year? 1 point off of winning the Bundesliga without your precious Bellingham? Yeah. Oh yeah, you're forgetting all these players that they're having. It's a tough stadium to go to, and they put up big games in the past Champions Leagues where they have topped teams, including the team that you're wearing on your shirt, Sam.
All right, Caleb, let's clarify your rankings one more time.
Borussia Dortmund number 1, PSG number 2, AC Milan number 3, Newcastle number 4. It's a tough group, I will admit. Easily the most interesting group. Borussia Dortmund will top the group.
Really?
I'm gonna have to side with.
You're the one putting Newcastle above them, Sam.
Yeah, because they are
based on last year's Newcastle.
This is a better Newcastle. They got Tonali, bro.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm also gonna have to side with Sam here on Newcastle being better than Borussia Dortmund. I think it's pretty easy to put PSG here at number 1. Then AC Milan number 2. Newcastle number 3, and then Borussia Dortmund number 4. Unfortunately, I love Borussia Dortmund, but I'm sorry, man. They just don't. They don't have it anymore.
I just want to say this is since their last finals appearance in 2013. This is Dortmund's last in the Champions League. 2013-2014 quarterfinals. I'll give you that. 2014-2015 round of 16. 2016-2017 quarterfinals. 2017-2018 group stages. 2018-2019 round of 16. 2019-2020 round of 16. 2020-2021 quarterfinals. 2021-22 they didn't even make it out of the group stage. And 2023, 2020, 22-23 round of 16. Their peak is round 16. They don't make it past that.
Okay, we can play this game. You put Newcastle ahead of Dortmund. Newcastle hasn't made the Champions League since 2002. So, according to your logic, they shouldn't even be in this group, and they won't make it out.
But you forget, this is a different Newcastle.
I don't want to hear this past crap. We're talking about right now. PSG is not the same team as they used to be as well. And like I said earlier, Dortmund's the hardest stadium to go to right now in the Champions League. So, let's move on to the next one.
We'll move on. This one,
that puzzled face is not going to change.
This one is another boring group in my estimation. I wouldn't say boring. It's not as interesting, especially compared to the group of death that we just talked about. But
honestly, we could probably just move on to the next group because
we can move on. Group G, be City and Leipzig.
Yeah, it's going to be City and Leipzig.
It's going to be City and Leipzig. Yeah. So okay, I mean we don't even really have to talk about that much. So
same with H.
All right, last group. I'm gonna go with.
Hold on. Let's introduce it first. Let's introduce it first. So out of pot 1, Barcelona,
Barca, Porto
from Portugal. Out of pot 2, and then pot 3, Shakhtar out of Ukraine, and 4 Royal. I'm gonna call them Antwerp. They're little twerps out of Belgium. So All right, Caleb, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I'm going Barca 1. Porto 2, Shakhtar, and then Antwerp.
So in the pot order, okay.
Yeah.
Sam? Go on, Sam. Go on, make your take. What's that sigh for, Sam, huh?
I'm going to say Barca 1.
Oh, okay.
Barely. I'm going to go 2. I'm going to go Shakhtar.
Oh.
3, I'll go Porto. And then Antwerp 4.
Okay.
They just don't have much to go for. It's like David and Goliath against Barca.
Yeah, I'm picking the pot order, what Caleb said as well. Barca, Porto, Shakhtar, and then Royal Antwerp. But Barca's going to top this group. It's going to be pretty easy for us, I think. And our only tough game will be Porto. But I think we'll end up winning that game, and I hope Lamine Yamal plays and has the youngest Champions League player ever. So we'll see about
Yeah.
that. So that kicks off the group stages, and September 19th is match day 1. So that will be a really important date to look out for. There's going to be amazing games as we've previewed for you.
Yeah.
Sam, you have anything else to say before we wrap up?
I would just say with the Champions League, we always look forward to that. We'll get to see a bunch of games throughout those couple weeks throughout, which will be fun. Great teams. I think eyes are gonna be on Group F. I know from all of us, we had our arguments and our disagreements about who's finishing first, second, or third, or fourth. Some very out there takes. I know I had a couple. I know Caleb's had a few. Casey had a couple. But all in all, it'd be interesting. The transfer window, another transfer window gone today. It's just like it feels like Christmas when the transfer window's out there and there's all those new shiny toys to go buy. And when it's over, we're sad because it's over. But we still have the January transfer window. We still have teams that can sign free agents. We have a bunch of free agents out there, like the likes of Ramos and David De Gea, and more. So they can sign with teams. Hopefully they sign soon because we'd like to see them on the teams. They still have quality. I just kind of want to leave off with, like I said, the transfer window ended. Who are your highlights of who won the transfer window in the Premier League?
Oh, in the Premier League. See, that's a tough one here. And I wanted to say Arsenal, but they brought in Kai Havertz on 65 million, so I can't say them. Biggest winners in the transfer window so far. That's so tough, man. Probably Newcastle. And although they haven't really done that much, they bring in Tonali. He was another big piece that they needed. He's going to help them a lot in the Champions League. And although I didn't pick them to get out of the group, we've seen him for AC Milan. He is a big loss for them, and I don't think they needed to do too much because they have a really solid squad already. They have Anthony Gordon, who I brought up earlier as one of the rising stars for them. Just torched Liverpool,
22.
and I know Caleb's not here to defend his own team again, but I think Newcastle, like I said, they didn't do too much, but for me, they didn't make any bad moves, and I think most teams who were doing a lot of moves made some bad moves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I think it's as a whole collective of buying. I think AC Milan did a great job. I think the likes of who they brought in and
I thought you were talking about you said Premier League.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't mean. I kind of switched it last minute. But yeah, if we're gonna talk about Premier League, I gotta go with City. City loses Kevin De Bruyne, loses Lemeric Laporte, and replaces them with Vardiol and Mateus Nunes, who are quality players that can slot right in and play. You brought in Kovacic to replace Gundogan. He might not replace the goals from Gundogan, but he replaces the engine and the leadership and the experience that Gundogan had.
They did lose Mahrez though. They did lose Gundogan on free, and they lost Cole Palmer, as you said, to Chelsea. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they had some bad losses there, I would say. They
had bad losses, but Mahrez really didn't play towards the end of last season. Cole Palmer didn't play really at all towards the end, or at all during the season. They like to play Bernardo Silva in that wide position at that right right wing spot, but when they play in the 3-back, Kyle Walker's that right wing back.
Yeah, I think that's another thing to say is they were expected to lose Bernardo Silva. I know I brought it up earlier, Barca was pursuing him, and they pursued him last summer too, but he signed a new contract with City, so I would put that as another win for them.
My only thing is their left back spot, if they play Vardiol out there, or they play Ake out there, because I know Stones is still hurt, which kind of hurts them who they're playing, but they still have enough coverage back there. I just think City overall in the Premier League did the best But in the entire world, in the top 5 leagues, I would go Milan just because of the players they brought in, the quality that it's translating to how they're playing right now in Serie A. I believe they're top of the table on a perfect record.
I mean, if this were about 8 years ago, I would say Inter Miami. I mean, they had Messi's Messi, Busquets, and
Go tell Beckham to sign Ramos. Jesus.
No, I think there's some Saudi Arabian teams that would beg to differ with you, Sam. They made some big
Saudi
signings
Arabian
here,
team,
and
they're not done yet.
Yeah, they're definitely not done
like
yet.
I said, September 20th is when they close, and the Turkish league closes on the 15th. So, like, we didn't even mention like how Salah has been linked to El Etihad for a number of weeks, and no one knows what's happening. So we'll see, and on September 20th if he's there or not.
Yeah,
we know Kirst, if he was here, he would say they're not selling him. But to be honest, actually in the polls, let me know. This will be on the polls. If you're Liverpool and you're offered $200 million for Mo Salah with
Dude,
1 year remaining on his contract, as he is 31 years old, would you turn down $200 million for your club, or keep him and let him leave for free next year?
You can't, dude. You can't hold on to him for $200 million. I don't care who it is. PSG would sell Mbappe for $200 million. You wouldn't sell.
They're trying to.
They're trying to sell him for $200 million. Like, and he's 31. Like, come on, dude. And FSG's cheap. They need the money to buy some other sports franchise in the U.S., dude. They need to buy some baseball team now or something. Another baseball team or some hockey team. I don't know. Something.
Liverpool. They don't. I would just say that Liverpool probably just doesn't want to face the facts that they have to go into a rebuild soon. They're kind of in that like denial stage. Like, I think Chelsea was in that a little bit ago. I think Arsenal was in that. They were kind of
Chelsea. On the other hand, once they lost Hazard, they were kind of done for. You know, they were just on a downside.
Well, Arsenal too. Oh
yeah,
they were in the denial stage. I think same with Man United. They're starting to come back ish slowly. There was that period of time where Man U just sucked for like a long period of time. But yeah.
Yep.
Other than that. So that is pretty much the wrap up of our podcast for the Net to Net. We went a little bit longer because we had to hit the Champions League with the transfer deadline. So we're coming with you on this on Friday. We recorded this Friday. We'll probably release it tomorrow. I'll work on that. For us, we usually do Sundays, but since it is Memorial Weekend, we know the boys are going on vacation. So we wanted to get this out now. And then we'll be back to our regular Sundays going forwards next week. And then look forward to it. I myself planning on maybe starting up here soon with some NFL and then some college football podcasts as well on the channel as well. So if you guys want to hear some football, NCAA college, we'll probably come back soon. And then, like we mentioned in the last one, NBA podcast will be back later closer to probably, I want to say, October, November.
Probably towards the end of this month when the preseason is about to start. Yeah, just like some preseason predictions and everything, you know. But I'm looking forward to this NBA season, man. So I will be definitely wanting to put out a lot of content for it.
Yeah, we will. And then soccer's all year round, and we know Caleb and I and Casey love that stuff too. So be on the lookout for more stuff that we'll release from podcasts, if it's our soccer, if it's our basketball, and then our upcoming, if we do college football, NFL, MLB, and those kind of things. Just be on the lookout, subscribe, follow us on YouTube and Spotify, and that's it. I'll see you guys soon.
Peace.
Thank you.